Okay, let's turn attention to Africa, where an RT source has confirmed that Ghana has rejected a $100 million bilateral health agreement with the US. Now, it is a setback to the Trump team's attempts to...
Ghana has boldly and publicly rejected the United States under President Donald Trump, abruptly ending negotiations for a multi-year health aid package after Washington demanded unrestricted access to the personal health data of Ghanaian citizens. This is not diplomacy as usual. This is a direct, unapologetic no from a sovereign African nation to the world's...
Ghana has just humiliated Trump. Ghana has declined to proceed with a proposed bilateral health deal with the United States of America, marking a setback to President Donald Trump administration to overhaul foreign aids. This is actually very serious. This time around, Ghana is not taking any nonsense from any external bodies. They rejected a health aid deal. God have mercy. Let's take a look at some of the videos to understand what this actually means, and do you think this is a good idea or it is not? Comment down below the comment section, and don't forget to like the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel.
Ghana has boldly and publicly rejected the United States under President Donald Trump, abruptly ending negotiations for a multi-year health aid package after Washington demanded unrestricted access to the personal health data of Ghanaian citizens. This is not diplomacy as usual. This is a direct, unapologetic no from a sovereign African nation to the world's superpower. President John Dramani Mahama's government has drawn a firm red line, choosing national dignity and data sovereignty over American dollars. The message from Accra is loud and clear. Ghana will not sell its people's private information for aid. Not today, not ever. A highly placed source close to the Ghanaian government told AFP this week that the deal is dead. What was supposed to be a 5-year agreement worth over $100 million in US funding for HIV/AIDS, malaria control, maternal health, and epidemic preparedness has collapsed after the American negotiating team turned hostile and began piling intense pressure on Ghana's team once Accra refused to surrender sensitive citizen data. This bombshell rejection marks a new chapter in Africa's growing resistance against the Trump administration's aggressive America First global health strategy. After dismantling USAID and slashing traditional aid channels, Washington has been rushing to strike new bilateral deals across the continent, but several proud African nations are pushing back hard. Ghana is not alone. Earlier this year, Zambia shocked observers by halting a massive proposed health funding agreement worth more than $1 billion, declaring that certain clauses did not serve its national interests. Zimbabwe followed suit, walking away from a $350 million deal, openly citing unacceptable sovereignty concerns, especially clauses that would have granted the US long-term access to national health data and sensitive population information. Even Kenya's ambitious health deal has run into serious trouble. A consumer protection group dragged the agreement to court, and the Kenyan High Court recently suspended its implementation, pending full hearing precisely over fears of foreign access to citizens' personal health records. Now Ghana has joined this powerful wave of defiance. According to sources familiar with the talks, the current administration in Accra openly scoffed at the idea of handing over sensitive health data to the United States. President Mahama's team, which included senior health officials, stood its ground even as the US side increased the pressure. The proposed deal, which began negotiations last November, would have seen the US commit around $109 million over 5 years. In return, Ghana was expected to open its health databases, a demand many see as nothing short of digital colonialism in the 21st century. Before the Trump administration's drastic cuts, America had disbursed $219 million in total assistance to Ghana in 2024, including $96 million specifically for health programs. Yet the new offer came with far stricter conditions and significantly less money relative to the control it demanded. This bold stand by Ghana under President John Mahama is nothing short of a diplomatic earthquake. While some African countries, but including Nigeria, Burkina Faso, DRC, Rwanda, and others, have quietly accepted versions of Washington's new health deals, Ghana has chosen a different path. It has publicly said, "We do not need your aid if the price is our sovereignty." For Pan-Africanists, this moment is deeply inspiring.
Breaking news, Ghana has just done the unthinkable. You'd believe they've rejected $300 million United States dollar health deal under global health strategy from the United States, the America First deal, whereby the Ghanaian government has insisted that it does not protect their sovereignty as Ghanaians, talking about the sharing of the controversial health private data to the United States companies. Ghana has rejected this particular deal following Zambia and Zimbabwe rejecting it too, insisting that this particular deal does not protect their own interest. In fact, Kenya was the first nation to sign this particular deal, but at the end of the day, the Kenyan citizens raised up and it ended up being halted in court, and the United States ended up suspending it. And now we have more than 20 nations across the continent of Africa that have already signed this particular deal with the United States. These are few: Nigeria, Rwanda, Uganda, Ethiopia, Liberia, Mozambique, Botswana, Cameroon, and many more. We have more than 20 nations across the continent of Africa that accepted this particular health deal from the United States under global health.
Now, Ghana has rejected a renegotiated bilateral agreement with the United States, arguing it breaches privacy legislation. The Health Cooperation and Specimen Sharing Agreement forms part of a wider reform to United States aid to Africa that's following the cutting of the direct aid in January of 2025. The new U.S. aid deal, which provides funding for up to $300 million, that's according to sources within Ghana's government, will require the waiving of health sovereignty, including the sharing of data and resources with the United States Authority. A development which the Mahama administration says directly contravenes several domestic laws currently in force, including the Data Protection Act of 2012 and the Public Health Act. Now, the deal, which is requiring the bypass of parliamentary ratification, a constitutional process for such agreement, has left government with no choice than to withdraw from the agreement, joining other African countries like Zimbabwe and Kenya. On the diplomatic corridors, reports suggest the U.S. government has been left disappointed with fears the development could strain relations. On the streets of the capital, however, the Mahama administration is receiving support from citizens to stay on course in rejecting the agreement.
I think in the short run, they are trying to invade our privacy. In the case that you might be somewhere and someone from another country knows your health issues, your health risks and those things. And in the long run, I think if the government accepts it will help, because maybe if I want to go outside the country to USA, they can get access to my, in case of emergency, health emergencies, they can get access to my health issues and know how to go out.
Okay, let's turn attention to Africa, where an RT source has confirmed that Ghana has rejected a $100 million bilateral health agreement with the US. Now, it is a setback to the Trump team's attempts to transition foreign aid into programs that make nations more self-reliant. RT correspondent Nulavuyo Kunge takes up the story from there.
It is a huge blow to Washington and its American First health strategy. But really, to understand why this is a trend and why this is a big deal, you have to look at how the help has changed. Because just 2 years ago, the U.S. was sending over $200 million a year to Ghana. But now the Trump administration has cut that, offering only half of that amount. But here is the problem. That money came with strings attached. Washington wanted Ghana to fight diseases like malaria, TB, and polio. But they also demanded a real-time feed of Ghana's national health data. Essentially, they were asking for the biological as well as medical data of every Ghanaian citizen in exchange for a fraction of the aid they used to give for free in Ghana. But Accra looked at that contract and decided that their people's privacy was not for sale. So this isn't just a budget cut. It is a total shift in how the U.S. operates on the African continent. And if you talk to officials and experts on the African continent, the feeling here is that the U.S. is trying to treat Africa as a testing ground or a data mine, but they are not offering a fair price for that. And this is exactly where the friction starts and where it really gets interesting, because Ghana isn't standing alone. We are seeing a trend across the continent. In Kenya, for example, the pushback is coming from the streets as well as the courts. But the strongest words so far have come from Zimbabwe. You would remember that they were offered a $367 million sum for their healthcare system. But when they asked if the United States would share its own medical data in return, the Americans said no. So Zimbabwe's message was quite blunt. They refused to be treated as a laboratory. But just listen to how the information ministry in Zimbabwe put it.
The health authorities requested that, can America also share its biological data and resource? The answer was no. So surely what's good for the gander must be good for the goose. What's good for the goose must also be good for the gander. But in our case, it seems like their data protection for their citizens was more important to them than our citizens. Well, our citizens are not guinea pigs. Africans are not guinea pigs. So we saw some racial element to that. That's why we said no.
And that phrase, Africans are not guinea pigs, is echoing across the African continent as we speak, because this isn't just a budget disagreement anymore. It is a fight for digital sovereignty. The U.S. is trying to overhaul how it handles foreign aid, turning charity into some sort of a transaction. But African nations are starting to realize that their biological data and their citizens' DNA might be worth far more than the millions that Washington and the Trump administration is offering. And this raises a massive question for the West, as well as Donald Trump and its administration. If the U.S. keeps losing these key partners, who fills the gap? Because as Washington constantly pulls out of the African continent or is being chased out, other global powers are waiting, and they are not coming in with these America First strings attached. So this isn't just a rejected deal, it is a declaration of independence from Ghana as well as many other African countries.
You see why I told you guys that Ghana government, they are very, very knowledgeable about things. They are not ready to trade their country's citizens' privacy for $300 million. They are not ready to sell out their people for a token of dollars. The money is a huge amount of money, but they are not ready. So imagine the US government asking the Ghana government to give them the data, like the health status data of its citizens, for a 300 million naira deal aid. So Ghana government read through the contract and they saw that, oh, this is a trap. How can they be asking for the health status of its citizens for America to be able to give them a health aid of $300 million? So they had to reject it. They don't care about the health aid. They had to reject it. Just imagine Ghanaians trying to travel out and they go to the embassy and the US government is telling them their status, whether they're HIV, whether they have hepatitis B, whether they have diabetics, whether they have maybe they're hypertensive. These things are private medical reports that is based on a particular person. It's not meant to be shared worldwide. So imagine someone from the US decided to start knowing your data. They can easily access your name, check your name and know your status, know the health issues you have. Individuals in the US, and they're going to make this data public to a lot of people in America. So imagine someone, maybe your cousin in America, calling you, oh, I saw your health status, oh, you have this disease, you have this, and that are your private, issues that are not meant to the public eyes. That is what America is trading with Ghana for $300 million. You see, Ghana is very knowledgeable. They are very sensible. Their government prioritize their citizen over money. I just hope every other countries can do this. They did the same thing to Kenya. I just hope Nigeria doesn't fall for this trap, or I don't know if they have done that already, because this is a huge, big trap. Ghana needed this money. They need it, but still yet they rejected it. This is something very nice. Let me know what you think in the comment section.